Okay, so today it's inspired by you because I am getting a lot of messages of many of you ladies who love the podcast where I talk about programming and training and progressing, either boosting progress, seeing progress, or some sort of incongruence in relation to how you're currently moving through your program, how you're currently progressing or not progressing, or just the way that you're doing things, not really feeling right. Because you're training hard, obviously, you're training consistently, but something just feels off. Your legs aren't changing the way that you think they should be. Your lifts aren't really getting stronger, or they are until they aren't, or they are, but then what? You just hit plateaus, or you don't feel or see any logical progression over your programs or over your lift through the programs. I should say of your lift through the programs. So it just has you feeling kind of stuck or like I, I don't know, like it makes you feel like you're just doing something wrong all the time and you just don't know what it is. And then you start to question everything. And then you start to not put in the same amount of effort because it becomes less rewarding because it's just like, well, this isn't getting anywhere. And then you stop enjoying that exercise. You stop enjoying some certain things because when you suck at something or when you're struggling at something, it's so freaking hard to enjoy it. I guess this also comes with having realistic expectations of the way that things should look or progress. For example, pull-ups, they're really freaking hard no matter how much work you put into it. But there are right ways and there are wrong ways of progressing it. And if all you do are banded pull-ups, you are never going to get a pull-up. If all you do are assisted pull-up machines, you're never gonna get a pull-up. And if you keep plateauing in your squats and you struggle to hit depth in your squats and you just keep trying to hammer, hammer, hammer the same thing over and over again, you're not going to improve in it and you're not going to get stronger in it because you don't get better at something by continuing to hammer it either the wrong way or just the same way. There are other things that we need to look at. We need to address your weak links. We need to see where you're breaking down, where you're getting stuck, and how exactly you are training. Because how you're training matters so much more than people realize. I fell into the same trap that so many of you probably are facing right now. I thought that when something got stuck or when I wasn't seeing my strength go up, I thought that just training harder, adding in more exercises, more sets, adding in drop sets, finishes, maybe another exercise of the same sort would get me faster results or better results because obviously the more the better. Like if I add in another incline press machine, then I'm going to get some little definition by my collarbones. Or if I add in another glute exercise, my glutes are going to grow that much better if I make them burn a little bit more at the end of each set. At first, sure, everything progresses. Everything feels like it's working because anything new does that. Only it's going to slow down. You're going to plateau. You're going to stop seeing newbie gains. And that is when all the questioning starts coming in. And that is why the way that you did things before aren't going to keep on working. And this becomes more and more of a case the older you get, because everything counts so much more and you can't risk winging it. Because if you aren't training to build as much muscle as possible, you're losing it because muscle is really damn hard to synthesize when you're over 30. And if you're not trained to build it, you're losing muscle at a 1% loss every year, which is dramatic. So we should be doing everything we can to be getting as strong as possible because strength is muscle. If you're not getting stronger, you're not building muscle. And if you're not building muscle, you're not building lean. And most of us want to see that enhancement in our body. We want to see that definition. And then this is where my program isn't working anymore. Am I on the right program? I just suck at this. I'm not built for this. I'm not going to bother with this anymore. This isn't the exercise I want to do, XYZ, because it's the wrong approach for you, or you don't have someone to guide you through it. There are so many things that I avoided because I sucked at it and I didn't want to be seen like someone who's struggling. And it was my coach that made me do the uncomfortable things. I would rather work harder and add in more of the other stuff because I was okay at it, or it just didn't feel as challenging some. So I guess what I learned the hard way is that the biggest problem was I was not addressing my weakest link. I didn't even know what my weakest link was. And that's the issue with most of us. Most of us don't actually know what's holding us back. And most of us don't want to do the work that is going to get us there because it seems tedious. It seems so inconcrete, like it's not tangible. It's not burning a bunch of energy. It's not burning, it doesn't feel productive. And I guess that's the hardest part of anything. Like when things don't feel like they're moving us forward or they're productive, like they're going to get us results instantaneously, why bother doing them? If it doesn't feel hard in the way that we classify hard, then we don't really want to do it or put as much effort into it. Like mobility work, like breathing work, like learning how to brace, like doing any of the boring basic shit that we need to do, which I studied to the nth degree when I was starting out, which was a lot of my bracing. It was learning how to get my glutes engaged with my core. It was a lot of pelvic and rib cage work because that was my weakest link. And I don't think enough of us realize just how important core engagement is because it doesn't just mess with your squats, with your deadlifts. It limits everything because every movement that you do is a full body exercise. Your leg training will have your upper body fully engaged as well. Like your whole body needs to function as a unit. Everything is connected. A plateau in one lift usually means that something else in your body isn't firing right. And that can show up in other exercises. If you can't get your core on, if you don't know how to brace, if you don't know the importance of your lats in every single exercise, yes, every exercise, your lats are so important in your deadlift. They're so important in your squat. They're important in so many exercises because your lats are a part of your core. It's pretty damn difficult for you to execute a solid deadlift, a solid RDL, a solid hip thrust, a solid squat without your lats and core being engaged. Because if your core isn't engaged, your pelvis isn't stable, your spine isn't stable. You're not going to get the full range of motion that you need to get in split squats, in lunges, in RDLs and squats. That's needed to put your glutes under a significant stretch. Or you're going to put a lot more loading on your back and then create some other issues that either prevent you from progressing in strength or they leave you with an injury. And this is why the problem is never you need to put in more effort or you need more discipline or you need to train harder or you need more exercises. Maybe it's another program. No, you can have the best program in the world, but if you don't know what progress actually looks like, and if you don't know what's actually keeping you stuck or how to brace or how to execute, then none of that actually matters. So you'll just keep hitting walls, you'll just keep plateauing. And the more that you try to force more, and harder, you're just going to keep burning out and fatigue and frustration, and your metabolism is going to slow down a fuck ton. And by that, I mean because you're trying to put so much effort into this period of time in the gym, whatever happens outside of it, you're not going to have the energy that you need there. And when I see this part all the time as well, when people have a really crap training session, that leads to a crappy mood over time. And then that leads to poor eating habits. So, poor eating habits, less expended outside of the gym, that's a slow metabolism because you'll end up eating more of the wrong things, less of the right things, moving less. The calorie balance there is going to lead to you getting softer and softer over time. But also one of the biggest things that we need to talk about with effective training, you need to it's amazing to start off at a place where you're training like 12 to 15 reps, getting used to the movements. I would pretty much say you never want to just do 12 to 15 reps anyway. Like you should always have some form of 10 to 12 reps. But if you're never training in the 5 to 10 range or not training enough in the 5 to 10 range, what are you doing? Like, you need to build that neurological efficiency to lift heavy shit and to get close to failure within the 5 to 8 rep range in many of the lifts, because that's going to feed forward into everything else that you do. And like I said, if you're not getting stronger and you're not training close to failure, that's why you're stuck. That's why you're not seeing the changes that you want. And it's so much easier to train to true failure under 10 reps. You can't really do it over 10 reps because you're going to give in to the burn and the ouchie and the, oh my God, that's hard, rather than actual failure. But you're not going to just fail at a 5 to 8 rep range within your first couple of months of training effectively because it's something that is learned. It's a skill and not just an innate skill from you doing the technical stuff. It's a skill of your brain connecting to your muscles, saying, okay, we need to recruit these extra muscle fibers because you recruit a whole lot more muscle and muscle fibers the closer to failure you get. Because as the smaller units fatigue, then other ones are going to need to get recruited to do the work that's there. And it's when all of them pretty much fatigue that a muscle fails, when they can't like grab onto each other. So you might find that they can't grab onto each other at an earlier point. But then as you get better at executing, at engaging and recruiting, that's the word, at recruiting more and more muscle fibers, you can get closer and closer to failure. And then as soon as all of these things can't grip on anymore, you're at a higher level of training. And this is kind of where that whole strong is lean, lean is strong. The stronger you are, the easier it is to stay lean, the easier it is to get lean, the easier it is to lose fat while keeping muscle because you're able to recruit a lot more muscle fibers. And when you're recruiting a lot more muscle fibers, quote unquote, tearing a lot more muscle fibers, repairing a lot more, building a lot more muscle fibers, that takes a lot of energy. Your body doesn't want to build muscle. Your body doesn't want to keep muscle. Everything that we're doing right now in a gym, everything that we're doing right now to build like a muscular physique, a fit physique, it's so against what our body wants. It is so energy costly to keep muscle alive. And our bodies are built for survival. Why would it want to spend extra calories on all of that shit? So if you're constantly putting yourself into a diet, constantly slashing your calories when you feel uncomfortable, then you're not building anything worth revealing, especially if you're over 35. So if you're not seeing results in the gym, this is why. You need to fuel that shit. You need to fuel it. It can feel hard, but you can still have so much more left in the bank if you actually fuel that session. Go into a session unfueled, and it's going to feel really freaking hard. learn how to train fueled for a while and then compare that to what you were doing when you were unfueled. And this isn't when you're starting out a new program or starting out anything, which is why just because you're progressing on a program doesn't mean you're actually progressing in the long scheme of things with your physique. And I see it all the time. I've had so many clients come to me who've done the apps, they've done the PDFs, but they were still feeling extremely stuck, wondering why they weren't seeing the progress they should be seeing if they're doing everything if they're doing everything right compared to the program that they're following. I've even had a couple of clients come to me from prior coaches saying the same thing, where that's what frustrated me the most because it's like you have a coach who should be progressing things as you're progressing. They should be asking the right questions. They should be using your data that you put into your training logs to progress your training programs month to month, not just giving you a random program by time the program's finished every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, every 4 weeks. No, it should be logical progressions. Sometimes I do that all on the 6th week or on the 8th week, depending on how advanced my clients are and how long they've been with me for. Depending on the data that they provide me is what determines how I program their things. If they're not giving me all that much, then I can really just go off based on the exercises themselves and hope that that is doing something. But I try to interrogate in a nice way. But a lot of my clients actually do give me the data that I need. Not at first, but over time they start to get better at it. And then I can start to improve their form, improve their technique, improving how they're doing things, see where their weak links are, and then adjust other exercises and accessories to turn those weak links into strengths, improving them so that they can actually change their physique. That is how it should be done. That is exactly what progress is. Progress isn't random, and it's not just increasing weight and reps, because you can do that over a program easily. But how about over months? How about over years? Because it's not linear either. You're not going to just keep getting stronger at a particular exercise. Otherwise, you'd be deadlifting houses and squatting trucks. Changing your programs too quickly is why you might be seeing progress on paper, but not on your body. Not understanding progress. It's huge. So when it comes to many movements, we want to make sure that we're mastering the movement, mastering the technique, and building our confidence within it. And then we want to build our strength within that. We want to be able to chase that strength over time. We want to understand what progress looks like in reality. Because you will find that in the first 4 to 6 weeks of a program, it is a lot easier to progress something. But then as soon as you get past the 6th week of doing that exercise, everything becomes more of a fighting battle. When it's upper body, it's like that a lot of the time because your upper body are smaller muscles. And this is why we don't want to chase fatigue through just adding more when we get stuck. Because most of the time that leads to us seeing our lift start to go down as well. We see even slower progress because accumulated fatigue happens over a day, it happens over a week, it happens over a training cycle, especially as you're progressing in a lot of the bigger movements. You might find that some of the accessories do take a toll from that, especially if you have a higher training volume. For example, if we're in a volume accumulation phase of trying to improve a pull up, and there's a lot of different pull up progressive things within your program, like we have a couple of pull up days, some pull downs, and some other similar patterns, you're going to find it really freaking hard to progress and see progress physically on paper. But as we start to remove some of that fatigue and allow for the true performance to shine, then it's just like, what the fuck? My performance is so much better now. Is it the fact that you weren't progressing before? No, we were just practicing a lot of skill work. So we need to know how all of these things fit into the grand scheme of your goals. When is it more skill work? When is it that we need to do a lot more repetitions to get better at something? And something that I've changed my view on recently is the way that we view squats and deadlifts and pull-ups and big patterns like that, because they're basically skill patterns. We don't want to train those things to failure. Like, yeah, you might fail a lift, but it's not with the intent of I'm using this as a hypertrophy exercise. It's I'm using this to build strength. And strength is built over months and months and months of you just laying the foundations, of you training submaximally, not like you're lifting feathers, but not to RPE 10. And then we use the accessories and the other stuff around that to push hypertrophy, to push muscle growth. Not everything we do needs to be a maximum big bang for buck. Let's build as much muscle as possible exercise or burn as much energy as possible exercise, which should never be the goal. You don't train. Well, you don't we can train for aesthetics, but it's like the purpose of training is not to change your aesthetics. That's the byproduct of it. The purpose of training is to improve your performance and to get fitter, to improve XYZ. The byproduct of you improving your performance is an improved physique. We use our nutrition and our fueling to enhance all of that. But nothing is going to change if you haven't and aren't willing to spend enough time fueling enough. If you're going to play safe in maintenance, then you need to be doing this for years and years and years and years and years before you think about anything else, depending on where your body fat is. But if you're willing to go into a slight surplus, depending on where your body fat is as well, because if you're someone that has a lot of body fat to lose, I would never put you into a slight surplus because we don't want to add extra body fat. You can very much well build muscle in maintenance, and a lot of it if you have a lot of body fat to lose, because that's stored energy and that's going to help. Just not in a deficit, because food is fuel. It's going to fuel your performance. It's not that you're going to lose, like you have a better potential to keep muscle if you have a lot of body fat in a deficit. The leaner you get, the more likely you are to lose muscle in a deficit. And if you're continuing to chase higher reps because it feels more productive, or higher volume because it feels more productive, or more and more work because it feels more productive, you're making it harder on yourself. And that's why I started this whole podcast off with saying that I get it because I was there. I was doing the exact same things. Or at least I hope that's what I said at the start of this podcast. I had to start it 3 times because the dogs went berserk and then they went berserk regardless. But this is so great because you have so much potential. So much potential to not keep repeating that same stuff. And this is why we want to prioritize quality. We want to slow things down. We want to realize that just because we can't lift the same amount of weight if there's tempo involved, if we need to use tempo, if we need to fix our execution, it does not mean that we're not progressing. Continuing to force load and push for keeping that load on the bar is keeping you from progressing, because that was stubborn me. I didn't want to take weight off my squats because, oh my God, how embarrassing. Especially because I had a face on social media too, even back then. It was very embarrassing, the fact that I had to go back to just squatting a bar from having plates on it. But I wasn't even getting close to parallel. I had issues with it. Once you can brace better, once you can lock in better, it means stronger lifts, less injury, feeling damn confident every single time you step into the gym, because now you have a plan. Now you know that you can execute. Now that you know that you have a runway for progress, it changes everything. And if you take nothing else away today, remember this. Your muscles don't care about how many reps you do. They don't care about what the dumbbells say with the number on the dumbbells or the weight plates on the leg press or the weight plates on the barbell. They don't care about any of that and they don't see any of that and they don't know any of that. They only know tension. They know quality and they know stimulus. Muscle isn't built by novelty. It's built by consistency. It's built by forcing change, repetition, and getting better at the same thing with intentional progress. If you've seen me lifting, my mom says it all the time, and that's because she doesn't understand this kind of stuff, but she always goes to me, if you want people to actually care about your lifting, you need to stop doing the same things and posting the same things. I'm like, but that's what my training is. It's the same things because that's what gets results. Like your lift shouldn't be changing much at all over the span of the year, over the span of the programs. Sure, there are some accessories and things here and there that change, but it's usually how those things are programmed, how they fit into your week, how the reps and the sets are then programmed to match what I've said above. For example, I have a couple of clients that are working on improving their bench presses, their deadlifts, their Romanian deadlifts, their squats, their pull ups. We have kept those exercises in a lot of the time, but the accessories to improve those lifts have changed. The way that I have laid out their reps and sets change. I progress them as they progress. The more fueled they are, the better their stress and lifestyle in particular periods of programming, the faster they do progress in that as well. But plateaus are inevitable. How long you stay in a plateau is design. And that's the difference between working with a coach and following a program. Working with a coach that builds a personalized system around you, your weaknesses, your strengths, and your goals, and a coach that just writes programs as programs. So, quick recap, training harder isn't the solution, always anyway, because sometimes training harder is what many people are missing. A lot of people could train harder, but it's not the be all and end all because you can train as hard as you want and still not see results. You want to train smarter and you want to have planned progressions. You want to have structure. You want to have strategy. Consistent structured training with personalized progressive overload is a non-negotiable. Your body is only as strong as its weakest link. And if you're not going to address those weak links, you're going to find many other areas within your performance, within your physique, also plateauing, also struggling, also becoming weak links because it catches on. Everything is connected. And you'll start to have injuries. You'll start to have more setbacks because weak links in the gym, they can be fatal. They can lead to a lot of issues with your knees, with your hips, with your back. So it's something that you should stay on top of. And if you don't know how to brace, I would start there. It can be learnt and it can be taught. It, I was probably the very, very worst for it. It took me a year and a bit to really nail to get my squats and deadlifts to where they are right now. And then I lost it and I'm trying to get it back again. And that part is part of being human. Quality reps matter so much more than how many reps you do. Don't just train to hit a rep range. Make sure that you're making that rep range count. Use the rep range. If it's like a 6 to a 15, don't just aim for the 12 to 15s because you want to use a lighter weight and get more reps out because it feels more productive when you're doing a shitload of reps. Like increase the damn weight. Or don't just hit 6 to 8 reps because you can't be fucked doing more reps when you know there's more in the tank, but you just don't want to push yourself. And this is where coaches come in. But you still have to do the work. You still have to put in the data. You still have to Tell them how things are going. That's the only way that we can identify your weaknesses. We can build a tailored system and we can ensure that you get results. That's the only way we can do that as coaches. And we are a team, coach and client. So, with that, I want you guys to let me know what's one thing that you're going to change after listening today. Let me know and DM me traction on Instagram if you want me to help you find some traction within your training so you can get the results that you deserve. Because I'm here to help you make your training smarter, stronger, and way more effective, one episode at a time, because that is how you build a physique that you're proud of. I love you all, and I'll talk to you soon.